And we are back on this Monday. Dr. Jason Dean, BraveTV, your source for health, freedom, and knowledge. This is like I have like 5 hours of streaming to do today. It is Mondays with Morley. I do. I have, you know what I'm in? You know what I'm in right now, Morley?
What?
I'm in, you'll understand this. I'm in live streaming because I have interviews I have to do for other podcasts, just like you do. I have my own podcast to do. I have to do a stream tonight on a documentary for my viewership, and I'm in the middle of trying to get CUs done for my license.
Ouch. When's the license due?
You don't want to know.
Oh.
March 31st.
Okay. What? Oh my God.
Well, everything's online now.
Yeah, I know.
So,
yeah, but not every state accepts online. Like
Florida
Louisiana
does,
doesn't accept online.
Luckily, Florida does. It's all changing. It's changing for a good thing because you know what? Now I can pick the courses that I want with the doctors that are actually teaching it.
There you go.
Versus the garbage that's like horrible.
Yeah, I know.
You know how this world is, right? Like,
I do.
What am I even learning, honestly? Like, some of it's such you know what's funny though? I've looked through all the courses to take. I have some general clinical courses to take. I'm not seeing any on copper.
Really? I'm shocked. Let's get on that right now.
Why aren't you teaching for these? Why aren't you doing CU courses?
So I just got back from a meeting with the IAOMT.
That's right. How did it go?
Went very well. Those are the biological dentists.
Fantastic. Great organization. Great group of people.
Great group of people, and they are my people. They understand what I'm talking about.
I told you. You were worried. I told you.
It was really funny. The first speaker was off-site. I was going to be the second speaker. The first speaker was off-site. They couldn't get the technology to work. I mean, they fumbled for almost 30 minutes. I'm thinking, oh man, this is really going to, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was a miracle. So they had Frank Schallenberger. You know him?
I know the name.
Yeah, he's a very well-heeled, very talented, very smart MD talking about what's the real cause of heart disease. And he very quickly got beyond cholesterol, as you can expect.
Thank God.
But he was talking a lot about ozone. He's like Dr. Ozone. He's been teaching people about ozone forever. And we'll talk about that a little bit further in a minute. But he gave a really good talk. And one of my slides, because I was supposed to precede Dr. Schallenberger, one of my slides was basically debunking cardiology and what's the cause of heart disease. And I was trying to think how I was going to explain that away before he talked. And it was perfect. He gave his talk, and I said, and building on your points, and it was just, it flowed beautifully. But what was really odd about it is he talked, then I talked, and then they moved up from the afternoon program. One of my colleagues, who's a very gifted dentist, Mike Gosweiler, out in Indianapolis, they moved him up about how to make the RCP work for your practice. So it was this beautiful 1-2 punch between my presentation and his presentation. And I don't know, I was on fire. I mean, there were like 500 people in the room.
Nice.
They were just eyeballs on my message. And I bet I must have had 50 people come up and thank me for the presentation. But they have a Q&A at the end of the day. They get all the speakers. There were 10 speakers. And you ask questions of the 10 speakers. Guess who 80% of the questions were directed to?
I'm going to guess you.
Yeah. And it's just like, and what was really funny is I was sitting behind Dr. Schallenberger. He kept having to hand me the microphone.
So it's always weird on a panel when someone's getting the majority and everyone else is just like, here's a microphone, here's a microphone, here's a microphone.
And I mean, I just kept handing it back to him because I didn't think anyone would keep asking questions. And then he didn't know anything about, there's a real important mechanism in the body. I think you and I have talked about it. And these are enzymes called ATPase 7A and 7B.
Okay.
And so that means it's an energy-driven pump that loads copper. They're really important inside the body. And of course, Dr. Schallenberger didn't know anything about this because he's an MD. He's a mineral denialist. He doesn't know anything about this.
He's a mineral denialist.
And so I said, would you like to learn more about this? He said, yeah, sure. Send me an article. I said, I'm going to do one better. I'm going to hand it to you. He said, what? And I happened to print out this article by a noted authority. Her name is Svetlana Lutsenko. She's up at Hopkins. Brilliant copper researcher. And in 2007, she wrote a 36-page article on these pumps. And so I handed it to him. He went, wow. And I said, you need to understand why copper is important. And this is a real critical mechanism. He said, thank you very much. So he lives in Carson City, and he said, give me a call. Let's continue the dialogue. So I thought that was a big victory. But a bunch of people are going to sign up for the course, and so it was a
Good
very
trip.
fruitful,
Good trip, we'd call that.
real good trip. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. I told you it's a really.
Well, you told me to pivot. You said it's time for you to pivot, and I did. And these people really were excited about what
you have to go where you're wanted.
Right. That's absolutely
Right?
true. Yeah.
Here's an example. Has nothing to do with copper, but I'll make it short. Right? I started off in the deep conspiracy world with people like Bill Cooper, Jim Mars,
sure.
these names,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is, if I was to say like what made me, what turned me into an influencer, it was that information, right?
Right.
Then all the
Sure.
shit hits the fan. I stay on the bus, and then all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, you should go conservative." Well, I am a conservative in general, right?
Right.
So I started doing conservative like stuff, right? Conservative shows, whatever. Not me. You know what? I go back to the stuff that I came from. Boom, right back on track.
There you go. That's
You know what I
beautiful.
mean? Like, same thing with you. You need to go, one, where you're wanted, but two, let it spread from there, if that makes sense. Because the dental world, these dentists you're talking to, those are the ones who are doing the right things, and those are the practices that are getting busier and busier. The non-awake dentists
Right.
will either go out of practice over time, or they will wake up very quickly.
Well, here's the significance of this group. They've been opposed to mercury for a long time. I think 30 of their 40 years of existence. A
lot of them only know mercury's bad. They weren't even programmed the other way.
Right, exactly. And so they've been on the bleeding edge of that issue for a long time. And they had a board meeting during this time up in Las Vegas. And they formally denounced the pathogenic centric cause of periodontal disease. Now, that's a seismic shift. It may not mean anything to you and me, but this is what is taught in dental school, is that it's those darn bacteria that cause this problem. And what they've now realized, based upon the teachings of this wacko in North Carolina, that the bacteria are living on the iron. And why is the iron out of balance? Oh, it's missing copper. And
That's a big shift, Morley.
Huge shift. And so it isn't that they adopted the RCP formula. I don't care about that. What they did is they moved away from the pathogen-centric model, and what they're playing footsie with right now is an energy-centric model, which makes way more sense.
Sure.
And the tissue loses its ability to make energy, and then that changes. So E equals mc squared. So E, energy, mc squared is not mass times the speed of light. It's structure times function. And when you have a loss of energy, the structure and function of tissue changes. It could be the teeth, could be the eyes, could be the brain, heart, or the airway. And you know what I figured out while I was out there? This guy was talking about um, airway disorders, um, obstructive OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea. Do you know what sleep apnea is? It's
I know what they say it is.
It's congestive heart failure of the throat. If you know anything about heart failure, the heart's getting bigger, but it's losing its strength.
Okay.
And that's exactly what's happening inside the throat. And the throat is changing its structure and function in response to what? Lack of energy. It was like
okay. Decrease in energy.
Decrease in energy. And it also would explain, why would the body seek less oxygen? Because it doesn't have the copper to activate it, to turn it into energy. It becomes this Mobius loop. And I mean, I don't know that I will have a lot of people to say, yeah, he's finally figured it out. But it's like, it made sense conceptually, physiologically, metabolically. I'm like, so I shared it with a few people, and they were like, wow, where did you come up with that idea? And it was just from this guy's talk. He just, as he was describing the conditions, it just made so much, because I've studied congestive heart failure a lot. And so we'll see. And I don't know, it'll be a fun group to interact with going forward.
I'm pretty happy you're in that group. That's a good. The last couple of years in seminars we've gone to, there were always, and my wife right now is communicating with several holistic biological type dentists as well, because they get it. It's almost like it's almost like they're right in our own wheelhouse. They're just working on a specific tissue versus working on the body, but they know the body.
But they talk about oral systemic health, and they know, just like Weston A. Price knew, that the mouth is the gateway to the body.
100%.
And I mean, I think one of the most amazing things is that when we are little tiny first forming fetuses, we have 36 buds. And those 36 buds split and become 72 buds. And 36 become our teeth. Do you know what the other 36 become?
Spine.
The spine. And what Dr. Price knew was that perfect teeth meant perfect spine, meant perfect health.
It's true.
And you, as a chiropractor, that was the mainstay. You didn't know the tooth part, but you certainly knew the spine part. And I just think that's so cool. And the other thing I learned at this meeting, which was fascinating, I've never thought, I knew that the teeth, each tooth was connected to an organ. But what they were really emphasizing, that each tooth is an organ. I've never understood that.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Have you looked at the Chinese medicine tooth?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. See, I just thought it was like a wiring thing. It's not. It's much deeper.
Oh, it's an organ. Yeah, it's
an organ.
And there's also there's an argument in that world that we're kind of into, but we didn't intend to get into it. There's a movement out there to get, like, it's kind of some of these non-pathogen people, which I love them, I really do, because they mean well, but they're also off, right? It's the ones who think that there's no such thing as an infection, and that's a whole other story, but which I talked about last week. But
that's hard.
Their big thing on teeth is, don't get any of your teeth removed. It's horrible. Whatever. Don't get any of your teeth removed. Don't get your wisdom teeth removed. And
yeah, no, I've heard that.
They're not wrong, but guess what? Our frame and our structure is not the same anymore. So, like,
my wisdom teeth were coming in like this.
Yeah, like I had to get my wisdom teeth out because the way they were crowding everything, and it was becoming more of a structural problem, which was then it becomes a brain problem, becomes a physiology problem, becomes a blood problem, becomes an everything problem, right? So you do have to. I had a tooth die. It's got to come out. Like it's my own fault, right? But it still had to come out. The dental, like, you have to get some things done. But yes, They are organs. Lose
Yeah.
as few teeth as you possibly can.
Yeah. No,
Because
it
there's
was
long-term organ problems that can come from that.
absolutely true. Yeah. And that's the work of Jerry Tennant too. He's done some real nice
Yep.
work around that. So several weeks ago, a friend said, you need to. She actually told me. She said, I had a dream that you were having an extended conversation with Gwyneth Paltrow. What? What do you? And
She's a health-centered celebrity.
I know. Well, she's no longer an actress. She's given up acting, and she's focusing on health.
Is she?
And so
I knew she was going that direction.
yeah. So I'm just like, like she said that, and I thought, yeah, like who do I know that knows Gwyneth Paltrow? Like
You
nobody.
don't
No,
because
you're going to get a kick out of this.
I have a friend. I have a friend who takes care of Robert Downey Jr.
Okay, well, we're going to make this happen. So this endodontist, I don't know what that is. It's a dentist, but they have a specific area of focus. I'm sitting in the second row. She comes in and sits down right in front of me in the first row, turns around, she says, I'm so excited that you're here. I'm like, great. She said, I think you need to speak to a couple of my clients. And I said, like who? And she said, well, one of them is Gwyneth Paltrow. I went, you got to be shitting me. So maybe it'll happen. You never know. And the thing is, she doesn't do like you have 15 minutes to tell me everything you know. She's just like, she'll sit down like Tucker Carlson and just start talking.
Like, let's chat. Like, tell me what you know. What can we do to help? I mean, and again,
yeah,
they carry power and influence, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah, no, she's very committed to this. So we'll see. I mean, it was the most unexpected, out of left field. Like, yeah, one of my clients is like, what? So we'll see. So we'll see how that plays out.
That's fantastic.
So
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, like, what was their biggest takeaway of the weekend? What was the punch in the, like, is it a different thinking for them, or are they like, oh my gosh, we're on the right path. This is that puzzle piece that we needed.
I think it was more along the latter, but I think it was, again, there's no practitioner group that was ever taught about copper.
No.
It's not in any training program. Doesn't matter what field you're in.
We teach it because of you. So,
well, whatever. But the thing is,
no, I know, but it was because of you. Like, the only reason it goes into my wife's training is because Morley talks to Dr. Dean all the time. My wife gets it.
Yeah, no, I think it's beautiful. And so I think they were generally stunned by what they didn't know. And of course, I as I always do, I asked them. I said, "So who here knows about the PAM enzyme?" Well, there were
I'm gonna guess hands, there
were three hands that went up, and all three have been through my program. So they've all been through my program.
Oh,
so you guys don't count. You guys don't count.
They don't count.
No. And so they were just like, what? I mean, I started talking about insulin. Doesn't work unless it's activated. CCK, the digestive hormone, doesn't work, and all these different hormones that people just take for granted. I said, they don't work unless they're activated. And they were just, I think that was the stunner, was to find out that there's this whole strata of physiology that they don't even know anything about. And it's like not knowing that the reason why your dining room lights aren't on is because the switch isn't on. But you didn't know there was a switch.
Right.
And there's a switch in every room, and there's a switch in every condo in your complex, and you didn't know that there were switches.
Yes.
And it's just like, so one of my colleagues, you should make a point at some point to talk with Martha Carlin, if you
set it up. I'll bring her on.
Okay, I'll make that happen. She is to the microbiome what I am to the mitochondria. And
I would love to chat with her. I'm big in microbiome.
Yeah, and she's got a product called Sugar Shift. It's a really cool product that basically turns glyphosate into a friend. It's
no.
Really, yeah. You're going to love having a chat with her. But she was sharing with me a conversation she had had today with Chat GPT
Yeah.
about regulatory hormones and their need to be activated. And it was just garbage coming back. And I said, Martha, I just this is
Martha.
don't do this. You know, the number of people that are relying on that as a source of information is scary. You know, a year ago, people didn't even know what AI was. Now, everyone's doing whatever they can to. They're really being hip. You know, I know about Chat GPT, and it's like it's garbage. I'm sorry, it's garbage.
Chat
And it's like,
GPT.
what's that?
I use it. I use it for the good.
Well, I know that you can use it for the good, but I think it's a classic example of the desert philosophy.
Oh yeah.
Trust Allah and tie up your camel. You better go back and tick and tack the facts to make sure you've got definitive resources.
Trust Allah and tie up the camel.
You've never heard that before.
Oh God, something always. It's so fantastic. Yeah, yeah. You have to. AI has a long way to go. It has great potential as long as you're not so slave to it. You have to learn how to use it. You still got to learn how to think.
The problem with it
The input is shit right now.
There's no footnotes.
Correct. Well,
And there
they're
needs
getting in
to
trouble for that.
Well, I think it should be stopped until they incorporate footnotes.
The New York Times sued him for it,
Good.
amongst others.
Yeah. No, it's a very frivolous thing. It's all it is opinion on steroids.
Oh, 100%. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, newsflash.
Yeah.
Yesterday, there was a really, really boring CEU class that I had to go through. And it was all PowerPoint slides. So, and they had an AI voice dictating the PowerPoint slides. Swear to God.
Yeah.
So me being intelligent enough, I muted it. So I didn't have to, because the voice was so irritating. It was a 2-hour slideshow. So I muted it. Huh?
This is for your training.
I don't, please. It's all good. It was a garbage course. I just took it because I had to, and I learned almost nothing from it.
Right.
I took one thing away, and I consider that a victory. For anybody out there who does CEUs, you'll know what I mean by that. Anyway, Morley, it was a 2-hour course, so I muted it. You know what I did? I watched the Sugar movie on Amazon you sent me.
Oh, you did? Good.
I did. I was like, I gotta learn something in this 2 hours. Fantastic film.
Wasn't that good?
Really good.
Really nice job.
I mean, Australia, and obviously it's a little different, but I love that he came to New York to actually like do some stuff in New York. That was really good. But alarming how fast his body collapsed.
I know, in like 3 weeks.
That's scary.
Very scary.
60 days? I mean, he started collapsing in 30 days, his body.
I know. Absolutely. It was really, and I think the doctor commented, I've never seen anyone.
Even they were like, wait, your blood is like, how did your liver shut down in basically a month?
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, he makes the assertion that 40 teaspoons of sugar is the average. Like, that's really high, I think. But to me, the most powerful statistic out of that documentary is that 80% of the food in the center of the supermarket that we know we're not supposed to go to, 80% of that food has a bliss point attached to it.
Mm-hmm. That bliss point was great.
Yeah, that they know exactly how much sugar to add to make you crave it, but not too much to make you pull back. That's a really scary concept.
Absolutely is. 100%.
So he did.
No.
I'm thrilled that you were able to see that. I thought that was very well done.
No, it was just it was great. It was great. Here, I'm gonna bring it up here. Everyone's asking me what it was. Let me show them real quick, and then I'll ask you about some ATP stuff.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
here it is. It's on Amazon streaming. It's called That Sugar Film. It's right here.
Yep.
That Sugar Film.
Really,
I'm not gonna send you the link because I'm logged in, so I don't know if it sends you my login. I'm not gonna do that. But really, really great film.
Yeah.
Really
and he met with some really important people. I really
Yes.
thought he did a nice job. Yeah.
I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think of this and how this could happen. If, let's say someone has a joint problem, and I watched this done a few years ago,
Yeah.
and I probably don't know all that's involved, but this is what I can tell you off the top of my head. We can probably figure it out the rest of the way potentially. Muscle testing, finding, for example, let's say a glyphosate toxicity in an AC joint of somebody's shoulder, right?
Right.
And to fix it, it needs, let's say, minerals, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, copper was in that mineral,
Right.
in the mineral complex.
Magnesium
To
would
get
be
it,
another good thing.
what's that?
Magnesium would be another good
Sure.
thing. Right.
But to get a short-term Band-Aid, they did some essentially like rubbing on it, right? With a mineral frequency vial.
Interesting.
And they got it to strengthen in the short term. Now, saying that that's not the fix, that is
No, but it's all about frequency.
well, and that's why I wanted to bring this up, because he said minerals, and obviously copper is in it, because I've asked about, okay, copper is in that mineral complex as well as magnesium and trace minerals. But now we're talking magnetism, copper is involved in that very cycle.
Right.
I was just curious your thoughts on that.
No, I think it makes perfect sense that it would respond. I think the question would be, how long would the relief last? I wouldn't think it's very, but
And they
I
were
think
very upfront. That's not a fix. You have to actually put it in you to fix the problem.
right. So I think again, at the risk of selling Martha's product, I sure have people taking Sugar Shift.
I already have it ready to go on my buy list to play with it. So
Okay, and then the copper cream or the copper serum that Formula IQ is making now, I think that could be explosively important for people who have connective tissue disorders, joint disorders, arthritis, things like that. People don't realize how this idea of energy deficiency. We just think it means I'm tired. They're not thinking at a cellular level. Are my tissues able to make enough energy to do what they're designed to do?
correct.
And there are what 100 trillion cells in our body. So that's a lot of cells to keep track of. But the thing is, certain products seem to have an affinity for connective tissue. Like Cipro has an affinity for connective tissue. And it'll just suck magnesium and copper out of the tissue. Apparently, glyphosate has a similar property. And that could be a fluke, could just be kismet. I don't know if it's designed. But the point is, these critical parts of our body need minerals to make energy.
Yes.
And when they're making energy, they know exactly what to do. And to me, it's the greatest missing piece of the puzzle worldwide, is not realizing. And again, it's the work of Douglas Wallace at CHOP, Children's Hospital, Pennsylvania. He's very critical of organized medicine not understanding cellular energy deficiency. And when the energy drops, E equals mc squared, the structure and function of the tissue changes. And it's an adaptive response. So that ache, that pain, that bump, that whatever follows the loss of energy is just an adaptive response to a change in energy production.
How could you slide copper into the C of the equation E equals mc squared?
I
Have you tried?
No, well, no. Actually, there was a time I used to call it E equals mg cu squared.
I just for the hell of it, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Because those two minerals, magnesium is essential for anaerobic glycolysis, and copper is essential for the electron transport chain.
Correct.
So you can't make energy without those two minerals. And if I know that, and you know that, you think they know that? Yeah, I bet they do.
100%.
Yeah.
One of the most common questions I get, Morley. So let's hit it, because I put today as a fatigued energy production day, and are people exhausted? So I hear this all the time, and this is why Starbucks is on every corner. People are exhausted, or they literally need to take a nap between
Right.
1 and, let's say, 5 o'clock. What's happening between those times?
You know who studied this very carefully?
Who?
It's a company called Dr. Pepper.
They're looking for a bliss point.
No, it's look it up. Look at the logo of Dr. Pepper, and it's a clock face with lines at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. And that was their logo for many, many years. I don't know if it's still the logo, but
No, it's not.
But that was the
and I was not a huge Dr. Pepper fan, so now I get. Oh, I see it. You're right.
okay. Wait,
That was their logo?
You thought I was making this up? Is that what you
did.
thought?
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were making that up for a second.
Come on, show the audience. I want to see.
Let me bring the. Hold on a second. I never saw that logo. That's totally new to me.
Oh, I'm so boring. I only know how to tell the truth, buddy.
Let's see. Let's get a good one here. That one right there. There you go.
Right there. That's it. That's it. 10, 2, and 4. And they studied this this was back in the 1920s. And those are called the adrenal drop times.
Okay.
There's a cyclical pattern to the release of adrenaline in the body.
Yes.
And the lowest points of adrenaline are mid-morning and those 2 times in the afternoon, 2 and 4. And what I think is missing in the modern diet, as you can well imagine, is there's not enough fat. And so when you're living off of carbs, you're going to have an aggravated adrenal drop time.
Not enough fat.
Not enough fat. And Tom Cowan, who we've talked about before,
Yep.
Board member at Weston A. Price, really cool guy. He has some great ideas, and very, very accomplished and successful.
Great
physician.
ideas. Also an outside the box thinker, whether true or not true. We need thinkers like that.
Absolutely true. And he refers to adrenal fatigue as fat deficiency syndrome.
Really? I have not heard him say that. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. And so what's missing in most people's diet is fat. And what do the adrenals really love? They love fat.
They love fat.
Especially retinol. And it's got to be retinol and copper are really, really important for what? For making hormones.
Oh, that's right. Adrenals kick out hormones. You need fat, don't you?
Yeah, you really do. And you especially need cholesterol. And so this idea of a low-fat diet, low-cholesterol diet, that was a great way to undermine the vitality of the populace. But get people to think that they were improving their heart health by not eating any fat or any cholesterol, which was totally bogus. But that's why people are struggling, is that they've got too much carbs, not enough fat, and their adrenals are probably the size of pinheads when they're supposed to be the size of walnuts. But the other side of it is, adrenals are in the back, right? Turns out, I think we talked about this last week. The adrenals are different shape. Remember?
Yep.
One's like the diagram, this pyramid up here, and the other is more crescent shape. And let me make sure I get this right, because this is fascinating. So the left adrenal is hanging out with the spleen.
That's right.
Right? The right adrenal's behind the liver. And Oh shoot, he sent this to me the other day.
One of our viewers says Tom Cowan seemed like he came off a little rude when he talked to me, and I said he's not really rude. It's just his demeanor. After decades of not being listened to and mocked, we all get a little pissy on the same way. Morley's the same way too. Morley and I have had our share of bitch fests behind the scenes, not on camera, because
Sure.
we've all been mocked, we've all been not listened to, and we get a little bit pissy sometimes.
Yeah, or when you're on the bleeding edge and trying to get things sorted out, it's very it gets very tense.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
but what I was going to say is that I think the left, well, and I'm embarrassed I can't find the email right away, but I will get it to you. But one adrenal is more focused on making cortisol,
Okay.
and the other adrenal is more focused on making aldosterone.
Ah,
It's very, very different than I remembered it. And that's really big. Aldosterone is regulating sodium. What is cortisol doing? It's really regulating potassium.
mmm.
So you got one adrenal. It's kind of a frick and frack thing going in with the adrenals, and the spleen needs fat too. And I think if the spleen starts to get stressed out, because what's it doing? It's doing where all the turnover of iron is. Well, what's going to burn out? I think the left is cortisol and the right is aldosterone, because if the left adrenal is getting tapped by the spleen, saying we got a lot of potassium being lost because of all this iron, that's where the stress is, and that would be contributing to people's overall fatigue. And what's potassium all about? That's the spark. It's really important mineral for intracellular activity. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. It's actually funny because let me tell you exactly the numbers. So in the morning, I've been playing with different electrolytes, and in the morning now, typically I start off with an electrolyte mix: 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. And I'll tell you, Morley, starting off with that with like a liter of water, which is really easy to knock out,
Yeah.
definitely felt a shift.
Really? Good for
Yeah,
you.
big shift. And my wife has always said to me, she's like, she goes, I think you're dehydrated. And I go, well, the toilet doesn't say so. Like everything seems, she goes, I still think. And so I kicked up my water, but I put I put that packet in. And then obviously getting copper in as well. And there was definitely a difference.
Very cool.
Definitely a difference. So I would agree. I mean, we are such a mineral deficient species. It's unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely true. So here's the information about right versus left. I was incorrect. So right adrenal gland. The right adrenal gland is responsible for producing hormones involved in regulating metabolism, immune response, and stress levels. The primary hormone produced by the right adrenal gland is cortisol, which plays a role in responding to stress, regulating glucose, and influencing immune function. Left adrenal gland is primarily involved in producing aldosterone, a hormone that helps regulate blood pressure and electrolyte balance.
Well,
Aldosterone
that's
acts
because it's on the heart side. That makes sense.
yeah, it does make sense.
Aldosterone is directly involved with heart failure.
With heart failure, and then I think I think the left adrenal would be influenced by what's going on in the spleen. And if there's an overwhelming amount of iron, it's going to affect the electrolytes in the spleen, running through the spleen. So it's a great distinction to make between the left and the right, because they're different shapes for a reason.
I'm I'm trying to find because I found that I looked up when I was watching that documentary last night. I looked up the congressional record for what they were doing with sugar, right?
Yeah.
And I am curious. I bet you we could find it if we dug deep enough later. The sugar industry's research and understanding of copper deficiencies.
Oh, I'm sure you could fill a library with it.
They'd have to know.
The fact that I just sent you that email. The fact that the sugar industry is the one that paid the Harvard scientists
That's right.
to blame fat for heart disease, when in fact there's 80 anatomical, chemical, and physiological defects in a copper deficient heart. And the impact of sucrose, which is a mixture of glucose and fructose, as you know. But the impact of sucrose was big, but the impact of high fructose, devastating to heart function.
Our body is literally constantly trying to adapt.
Well, yeah, get back to homeostasis.
It is seeking out homeostasis any way it possibly. I'm looking at the left and right adrenal gland that you sent.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Unbelievable.
So and again, it would make sense that the right would be behind the liver, because the liver is a major metabolic player. And I don't know. It's questioning the dogma like that. That's so important. That's where you find these pearls.
Sure.
And I just happened to be looking at a picture. This goes back to when Reed, the dentist who sent that, when he was in the class, and I made some comment about the difference. He said, "Well, what is the difference?" I said, "Reed, why don't you dig into it?" And he did, and he found this information. So again, and I think that to flog the adrenals isn't always the answer. That I think the spleen, because it's called the hidden organ, I think the spleen needs to be supported as well. And one of my other physician colleagues who's going through the training, she refers to PTSD as post-traumatic spleen disorder.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a
spleen
great point.
Takes it on the chin all the time. And
Great point.
We blow past it.
Here's a good question. My own question. Man, how much fat? What do you think? What do you think is a good fat content? I mean, if you're saying more fat,
right?
How much fat? I mean, that's a lot, but not that it's bad.
No, see, people are afraid of fat. I've sat in enough coffee shops and listened to people order their skinny lattes because they're afraid. No, they do it all the time.
Do they really? Everyone wants low fat, don't they?
They want low fat. Try to go to the supermarket. I'll give you $100 for every brand of full fat yogurt you can find.
There are not any.
There aren't any.
Not any.
You might find one Greek, maybe, if you're lucky. But again, worldwide, there's just been
even the healthy brands say low fat. Like the legit organic healthy brands are like, yeah, low fat over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other catchphrase, you got low fat and lean meat. It's got to be lean. It's like, no, it doesn't. It's the fat. I remember years ago, a friend of mine got a porterhouse steak, and the first thing she did was cut off the fat and put it off to the side. And so I just kept eyeing it. And then everyone was going to order dessert. And I said, "Can I have the fat on your plate?" She said, "Oh, God, that's disgusting." I said, "No, it's delicious." And I just grabbed it, put it in. Oh, my God, it was wonderful. So how much? Weston A. Price, I think he went as high as like 65% of the diet.
I think you're right.
Calories of these 14 indigenous communities, tribes, whatever, was fat. I think if you get up to...
That's a big number, man.
That's a huge number. And if you get up to like 35, 40% today in this era, that's considered a lot of fat in your diet.
Tell me, what does a 65% fat diet look like? What would you, if you had to do 65% tomorrow, what would you do?
I think it would be really hard. I really don't know how I could do it.
I'm not like a dozen eggs. I don't know. And like a burger. Like, what is that?
No, no, it's a really good question. I mean, the people who understand it obviously are Weston A. Price Foundation, Sally Fallon's group, and I don't even know if they push it that high.
I don't think they push it that high.
But it's the fact that the people with the healthiest teeth on the planet before the modernization of food, so-called modernization of food, were having enormous amounts of fat, tells us that I believe that our metabolism, excuse me, our mitochondria are really designed to run on fat.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been exposed to, it's like putting sugar in your car gas tank.
Yeah. I don't.
Doesn't
I
work
don't
right.
think when people say that they're keto in the comments, I don't think you guys realize what 65% fat calories. That's not
It's an
nowhere
enormous.
near what you guys are consuming. That would mean
That's not much fruit in your diet. That's not much
you would
protein.
have to consume, you'd have to cook your food in full on tallow lard all the time. You would have to
Right?
eat. Now, keep in mind, you're going to have to eat at least half a pound of
That's
meat just to get the right protein. That means the fat you're gonna have to eat the like, I don't know, what is that, 2 sticks of butter a day?
well. I know Sally Fallon years ago. She was presenting and she was talking about having oatmeal with a half a stick of butter, and the audience gasped. They went, "Oh!" And she had a great response. She said, "Should I add more?"
I mean, so did you know there's a fringe group out there right now who is promoting that you can go ahead and be carnivore, but you need 300 grams of carbs per day because your brain runs off glucose. This
Yeah,
is a new fringe
yeah.
natural healthcare group.
No, it waxes and wanes.
It's
But
insane.
but back to your point, that's 1,300 calories on a 2,000 calorie diet. 1,300 calories is coming from fat.
I'm going to sit down and I'm going to figure that out and I'm going to try it and see what happens.
Yeah, so maybe yours is that fat movie instead of that sugar movie.
It is. No, I agree. We don't, I mean, in the viewer, no, I'm not saying we need that many carbs. I'm saying there's a fringe group out there that's talking about that. But no, that's no one's eaten that way ever. No one's eaten that many carbs and been okay with it. But 65%, man, I got to figure that out.
Yeah, no, it's an enormous number. So the other thing that really struck me at this meeting in Las Vegas, uh, dentists are high users of ozone,
Yes.
and I've always been intrigued by that. And it was Frank Schallenberger who he was actually at the meeting and gave a nice presentation, as I mentioned, and um, he's the guy. He has done a lot of training of practitioners in ozone therapy, and he said it was to increase the ATP production. I went, what? I was just like, so people can see the triangle behind my head, right? The delta is the symbol for change, right? I love that. I've always been a change junkie, but there's three ways that I know of to increase energy production. At the top of the up at the top would be copper in complex 4. That's what's making it happen, both in complex 4 and complex 5. So copper would be a great way to do it. Another way is using red light therapy, and practitioners do it all the time. Lasers, tenant toys, um, Juva lights, or whatever they're called. Near infrared lights, saunas, things like that. And the red light resonates with the resonance of copper. Red light is 650 nanometers. Guess what copper's frequency is? 650 nanometers. What a coincidence. Back to your point about frequency of the minerals, right? And so red light, it's a electronic crutch but it works.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it actually blocks nitric oxide from preventing the cycle completing inside the mitochondria. And it allows for the water to be made so that the energy can be released. And it's very cool. But it's still, it's is it natural? It is sort of, but it's not copper. But it has the resonant frequency of copper.
Makes sense.
And then we get the third leg of the stool is ozone. And ozone increases the production of ATP. But the three most reactive elements on planet Earth are fluorine gas, fluoride,
Mm-hmm.
oxygen, and ozone.
Correct.
And so we're using a very reactive element. It's like, we can use cocaine to wake up. You know that, right? I really think that's what this is about. And there's a price to pay by using cocaine. There's even let's dial it back. There's a price to pay for using coffee to wake up.
Yes.
It is not a benign substance. I think it's the most enigmatic element on the planet. There's probably more articles written about the pros and cons of coffee than any other element. But I think that using ozone to stimulate the mitochondria it's like, I remember how struck I was when I learned that any heavy metal causes an increased production of red blood cells. Any heavy metal,
Yep.
cadmium, lead, mercury, doesn't matter what it is. Iron, that's a heavy metal, folks. And they will all cause, and why? Because heavy metals cause oxidative stress. And the body's response to that oxidative stress is to produce more elements that can carry oxygen.
Yes.
Because the body runs on oxygen. But to use ozone, and it's just, it's going to take a while to really sort my way through it. But it to me, it is not a natural mechanism. And I know I'm bucking the system here big time.
It's okay.
But to me, it doesn't make sense. When I heard that they used ozone therapy for arthritis, I said, for what? Well, pain relief. I said, what aspect of pain? What makes more energy? And then I went, wait a minute. Do you understand how body makes energy? And I don't think they knew. Again, what's the process for a practitioner? Problem, reaction, solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all they know. Oh, you got this problem? We know that's going to work. Well, why don't you think it through? Why, like with vitamin D. Oh, my vitamin D is low. Have you ever asked why? Have you ever wondered that maybe there's a buildup of iron in your liver because you don't have any copper in your diet? And so if the iron is building in the liver, it's going to drive magnesium out of the liver. And guess what the enzyme to make vitamin D requires? Oh yeah, magnesium. It doesn't work in the presence of iron. And it's like, that would be a good thing to know. And so people don't ask the question, why? And instead of saying, oh, my joint hurts, you at least introduced an innovative approach, which is a mineral that has frequency. That's very creative. It's short term, but it's like, let's ask, why is the pain there? Why do the pain receptors, why aren't they being fed? Why aren't they happy? And guess what the pain receptors really love?
What?
They love copper.
Of course.
And so how many pain centers are there around the country?
How many pain centers?
Yeah, there are a lot.
Oh God, it's exhausting.
Right.
We have one near the corner of us.
Yeah. And what are they doing? They're dulling the nerves that are telling us, I need more copper.
Over 50% of the people in that parking lot, they're there early in the morning. I see them either in walkers or being carried in or in wheelchairs.
Right. And so without the benefit of blood work, I would predict that they are iron toxic to the core. They don't have enough copper to whisper at.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that running those centers don't know what we're talking about right now. They know what they were taught. They know what they were taught. They know what the protocol is. I'm supposed to do if this, then that. If this, then that. I know I've got to do that. And no one's asking why. Why do we keep seeing the same types of people
Correct.
with the same types of problems? And is there another way? Is there something that we're missing? And again, that's what was the origin of the root cause protocol. It's not complicated.
It's not complicated, he says.
Well, I don't think it is.
It's not.
I think what's complicated is having to let go of your training.
Agree.
Right. That's where people
I don't disagree.
That's the chicken wing in the
well,
in the
it's the uneducation and the kind of the re-education, for lack of a better term. I don't love that word.
Right.
Before we go, I have to run to do my CEUs. How many grams of how much copper do we need in a given day?
I tell people that they need at least 3 to 4
Micro or
milligrams.
Milligrams.
Milligrams, not micrograms, milligrams. And our ancestors back in the 30s, 1930s, during the Depression, were getting 4 to 6 milligrams a day in their natural diet.
Okay.
In the 60s, it had dropped to 2 to 5 milligrams. And now the RDA for copper is 0.9 milligrams. Guess what, folks? The body does not run on 9/10 of 1 milligram of copper. It will begin to spew black smoke through uric acid. It will have all sorts of connective tissue disorders. It will have all sorts of aches and pains. And it's not taught in doctor school. So 3 to 4 would be a good place to start.
Makes sense.
I have people taking much more than that. And
I take much more than that. I can tell you that much right now.
Right.
I take it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, good sir. Thank you for today. Good conversation today.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's a fired up one.
Yep.
I appreciate all your education out there for everybody.
Yep.
Go check out Morley. Check out his stuff. And I think Morley's going to be here in December. I think we're going to get that set up.
Oh, good.
More speaking engagements, sir.
That's great. Love it. In your neck of the woods?
Yes.
You're back?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
nice
sir.
place to do it. I look forward to it.
I appreciate you.
You bet. Thanks so much.
Hang on afterwards. I got to tell you something.
Okay.
Mondays with Morley, everybody. Morley Robbins, Dr. Jason Dean, Root Cause Protocol. Everybody have a great rest of your Monday. Again, I'll be on tonight at 8 o'clock too. Tonight we have a documentary or a seminar being shown on the channel. So it'll be live, not live, but live. So check that out as well. And we'll see you next Monday. I think is good. Mondays with Morley. Have a great day, everybody.